I'm so sorry I almost shot you. I probably wouldn't have.
Hey, oh, shh. Oh. I totally get it. I'm sorry I let you get attacked by a werewolf and then into the world.
You were right. Humanity. It's time to give someone else a chance.
I think this one is interesting. Originally, Godzilla
What
was...
number? Do it right. You're gonna do it.
Today's Godzilla... This week's Godzilla fact is Godzilla fact number 45. Originally, Godzilla was going to be an octopus, but then it was changed to being a lizard, but he was going to have like a mushroom-shaped head, like a mushroom cloud from Atomic Bomb. But then after the success of the 1953 film The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, which was apparently a dinosaur, they decided to just make him a dinosaur.
Isn't one of the monsters that he fights like a mushroom-headed dude?
No.
What's the one that we watched up in Hocking Hills?
Orga.
That one. Doesn't he kind of look like that?
I mean, he looks more like a whale or a tortoise, like a sea turtle, than a mushroom. Because he's supposed to be like Orga.
I did not get that at all. He does not look like an orca.
No, but he doesn't look like a mushroom. That was this week's Godzilla fact. Hey there, ancient ones, weird gas station owners, zombie families, and caged monsters.
Welcome to another episode of What Happens in the Crypt.
Today, we are talking about the 2011 movie, The Cabin in the Woods.
This movie was the directorial debut for Drew Goddard, who was a writer on Buffy, Lost, Cloverfield, and The Martian. And Joss Whedon and Drew Goddard wrote the script in apparently 3 days.
Mm-hmm. Apparently they had been on like both of them were working on movies that had been scrapped, and then they were mad about it. So they were like, let's just make something.
They destroyed the world.
Yeah. They're like, let's just write something that can actually please get made.
I just can't believe I didn't know this was Joss Whedon, because all of the dialogue is so Buffy, like, esque.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I didn't know that it was Joss Whedon until we started talking about this one, but so many things that the main girl says, it's like, oh my god, Buffy would say that. A synopsis for this one. 5 friends go for a break at a remote cabin where they get more than they bargained for, discovering the truth behind the cabin in the woods.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right, are you ready for some taglines?
I'm always ready for some taglines,
I'm just going to read them, because
Okay.
you don't know about them.
Okay.
They're actually really funny. If you hear a strange sound outside, have sex.
Wasn't ready for the have sex part.
If an old man warns you not to go there, make fun of him.
These are all the tropes.
Quaint abandoned property. Sold. If the basement door swings open, go down there. That first one made me laugh, though. If you hear a strange sound outside, have sex.
She's still alive. How can the ritual be complete?
The virgin's death is optional, as long as it's last. Main thing is that she, suffers.
That she did.
It's so strange. I'm actually rooting for this girl. She's got so much heart. You think of all the pain and the... Tequila is my lady!
Trigger warnings for this movie include, definitely gore. Like, there's some disturbing imagery, definitely. The opening of this movie was apparently a deliberate attempt by Drew Goddard and Joss Whedon to confuse the audience and make you think that you walked into the wrong movie.
Which is definitely effective. I remember seeing this in theaters and feeling that way. But also because the two main guys are such famous actors. So it's like they're always in like dramas and stuff. So like seeing them was really confusing.
Because I know the guy with the glasses, I can't remember his name because I'm terrible with names. But I remember he's the dad in 6 Feet Under. So that's immediately what I think of. And it's sad.
Yeah.
Not horror.
It's like, oh no.
And apparently, one of the reasons behind this was Drew Goddard grew up in Los Alamos, New Mexico, which was a city full of scientists and, like, the whole town worked. It was one of those towns where everybody worked for the same company, and they were actually working on nuclear weapons. So it was a bunch of, like, boring suburban
like government workers,
government families who are actually going to like prepare to destroy the world maybe.
According to Joss Whedon, the role of the director, who is played by Sigourney Weaver, was always intended to be someone really famous from horror movies, and initially they really wanted Jamie Lee Curtis. I don't actually know why that didn't follow through.
She must have not been available or didn't want to do the part.
But I feel like she would have been a little too soft. I can't imagine her pulling off like the harshness of
definitely can.
Sigourney Weaver.
She's not as harsh as Sigourney Weaver, but she definitely could do it.
And apparently Sigourney Weaver was excited about the part because she was finally in a movie with a werewolf.
Oh yeah, because she gets attacked by the werewolf at the end. But yeah, she does a great job.
Yeah.
Because also she's not like, was never portrayed as like the final girl. She's from Alien and Aliens, where she's badass, getting into a fist fight with a giant alien queen. This was actually one of Chris Hemsworth's opening roles. First movie. It wasn't his first movie, but he wasn't huge yet. So although this movie came out later, this was shot before Red Dawn, before Thor, and it was during production of this movie that a lot of the dailies and rough edits were seen by a lot of higher ups in Hollywood. And there's the scene where he is instructing them like what to do and how he's gonna jump the ravine. And it's in that scene that people saw his acting and immediately offered him roles.
Yeah.
Just from that one scene. And he was offered on the basis of that performance, they signed him for Red Dawn, and then 2 days later, they chose him to be Thor.
Thor. So crazy.
Just takes, apparently, one scene to do it.
Well, I mean, that is, like, it's a good acting scene, I guess. It's really dramatic.
Yeah, it is. It's very dramatic, and he's, like, the leader now, which I guess, I actually saw Red Dawn. They actually...
What is that?
That's it's the movie where, like, is it Korea or China? I can't remember off the top of my head. One of those countries, or both of those countries, I don't remember, but is invading the United States. So, like troops, enemy troops get dropped into their town. Oh, so it's
an army movie?
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I have not seen it.
I actually only saw that movie because they shot a lot of it in Michigan, and one of the scenes where a plane crashes was on my teacher's lawn. So
weird.
He let us go see it. Like, we saw a giant plane. Like, it was like, it's a lot of CG, but one of the cockpit, like, shell was practical and on his lawn.
Weird.
Yeah. So that was cool to see. But yeah, most people don't know that this is what, like, kickstarted his career, because Cabin in the Woods was actually shot, like, 2 years earlier, or 3 years earlier. It was shot in 2008 or 9. But MGM actually was...
They went bankrupt or something.
They did. Yeah. They went bankrupt, so they couldn't release the movie right away, and they actually had to shelve it for a little while. Imagine if this movie never came out. That would have been...
suck.
I know, that would have been such a bummer.
And with, like, it being, like, Chris Hemsworth, too. That would be crazy.
Yeah, then, that would have been nuts. So, this is actually before both those movies. This was one of the funnier things that we found out. So the guy who plays Marty is the only one who doesn't jump into the lake. He doesn't take his clothes off. He's the stoner guy.
Yeah, which seems fitting for his character. He's not like gonna jump in the water.
But apparently this decision was made because he's jacked. And the parent... Here, we're going to post this picture of him. He is actually, like, cut. He's...
So you're saving that picture now?
I'm saving it for later.
You fucking nerd.
Because we're going to post it, but also so I have it. But look at him.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't look like typical stoner dude.
He seems so skinny in that
I
movie,
know.
too, but
they
he's
said
not.
they made him wear clothes that were 1 to 2 sizes too big.
Yeah.
So, like, they have him in all, like, extra large or extra larges so that you can't tell. And they keep him in, like, that sweatshirt the whole time.
He wears a hoodie the whole time.
So you can't actually see how much... Like, I'm just going to keep looking at pictures of him, I guess.
Speaking of Marty, the actual, like, coffee mug bong that he uses was they actually made that and it cost $5,000.
Hey, prototypes ain't cheap.
It just seems insane.
They needed it. They wanted it to work. Because doesn't he use it as a weapon later?
No, I think it's only in that one shot.
Is it really only in that one shot?
He comes up driving, smoking out of it, and then he pops it down.
Huh.
Yeah.
As far as locations for the movie, the underground complex, elevators, and control rooms were all sets. But for several of the wide shots, they actually used the British Columbia Institute of Technology's Aerospace.
That sounds like exactly what that place is called.
Yeah, it actually does. But I mean, yeah, I bet they don't sell a lot of t-shirts with that name.
No.
Oh yeah, BCITA.
Mm-hmm.
Rolls right off the tongue. In regards to the building, production designer Martin Wist had this to say. It's a very high-tech industrial and brand new building, and it had never been shot before?
Yes.
It had never been shot in before.
He continued that he wanted the elevators to be without controls, to almost feel like a glamorized freight elevator. The lobby he wanted to look slightly utilitarian, contemporary, and institutional, sharp and almost characterless, end quote.
Did he just insult a building? Or was that a
It's like a backwards compliment.
Backhanded?
Or backwards.
Okay.
I always say backwards. You don't have to say backhanded, do you?
That's what I say.
I say backwards.
Now, I don't know the location of the cabin, but one thing about the cabin is that it is an obvious reference to Evil Dead, and we just got to talk about that for a second.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of Evil Dead references.
Mm-hmm. I would say the basic premise of the movie is Evil Dead.
Yeah. Obviously, the basement door opening, and then even on the board, there's molesting trees. Is it molesting?
Oh, yeah. So
pervert trees on the board of monsters.
Angry molesting trees.
Yeah, and there's deadites on there as well.
Yes, and they find the book there's Latin in the book.
Yeah, exactly.
And even the deer, although it doesn't come to life in
Yeah.
one of my favorite scenes of any movie. But
I love Evil Dead.
I know, me too. We should watch it again.
Bruce Campbell's going to be on Joe Bob this week.
Well, we'll be watching that.
I really want to.
Yeah. Oh, one thing about that scene, though, is remember when she's kissing the... Is it a wolf's
It's
head?
a wolf.
Not a deer. It's a wolf. When she's kissing the wolf, but apparently to make the scene more tolerable, they put powdered sugar on the wolf's
I think
tongue.
that's gross. That would be worse.
No, it wouldn't. No, like having silicone or latex in your mouth is... Blech.
But like sugary latex is better?
I would imagine any flavor is better than pure glue latex.
Okay, I guess. I thought that was very off-putting.
Other inspirations this movie has can be seen on the monitors throughout, like the office building, and you'll see like bits of other rituals failing.
Right, like the other countries that are also trying to like appease the gods.
Yeah, and of course none of them can get it. But the Kyoto ritual is a reference to Ringu, or the ring. Buenos Aires ritual is a reference to King Kong. And then there's the Stockholm ritual that is a reference to John Carpenter's The Thing. And then it shows a Madrid reference that appears to show Dracula.
I definitely want to look at those closer next time we watch, because the only one that immediately comes to my mind is the one for The Ring, because at that one they show like full screen.
Yeah, but I knew I saw The Thing in there, but the other ones I didn't quite get it. There's so much in this movie that you need to like freeze frame, like when it shows all the monsters.
Right.
Or there's always a lot going on. I even read one thing that when all the monsters get released in the top right or top left of the screen,
Saw that too.
you
The
can
purple
see a
people
purple
eater.
people eater.
I was like, I would never noticed a purple people eater, but okay. I'm sure it's there, internet.
Some of my favorite possibilities on the board were dismemberment goblins, the reanimated. What were some of the funnier ones?
I think sexy witches.
Sexy
is
witches.
hilarious.
That was so oddly specific.
Not just witches, sexy witches.
Sexy witches. And one that I actually looked up because I was like, what the hell does that mean? Was Kevin.
Oh, yeah.
So it apparently is a reference to Elijah Wood's character in Sin City, which I've never seen.
I have, but I remember distinctly not liking it.
I've never seen it. But I know, so I looked up who his character was, and it was cannibal serial killer. So, gross. As far as creating the monsters went, most of them were CG, but a good number of them were done practically.
And the actual redneck family was practical.
Yeah, it's more so the scene where they're down below.
Everyone's out.
Yeah, then most of those were CG. Imagine how long it would take to do all those makeups practically. Also, things like the giant snake, you could, but unless you're Guillermo del Toro or some shit, it ain't happening.
Yeah.
But the project was headed by AFX studio David Leroy Anderson. Okay, three names, all right. But apparently 60 people were recruited to do this task, and they created around 60 different types of monsters, which is so many. It would take you so long.
Yeah.
The producers told them that they could commence their work on December 15th, which was actually 2 weeks earlier of the original date of January 1st, but they were only given until March 9th to complete all their work, which is not enough time.
Yeah.
That is
a
crazy.
lot of stuff to do.
Anderson later joked, and here's a quote from him. He said, "We had nearly 70 people at peak, but in effect, we had 140 people because everybody had at least 2 jobs. It was crazy, but people had an incredible time. None of us are ever going to forget it, and we're never all going to be in the same room again."
Yeah, it's like a crazy amount of work, but that would be fun, that you're just designing monsters.
Yeah, it would be cool. And that's a project, well, like we've joked before, where there's the intern duty where you're just doing all the work nobody else wants to do. But with a project like this, everybody would be making monsters.
Yeah.
So it'd be pretty fun.
So speaking of the practical effects in this movie, legendary final girl Heather Langenkamp, Nancy from A Nightmare on Elm Street, her and her husband, who is David Leroy Anderson, own an FX company called AFX Studio, and she actually worked on this movie, which I thought was cool. And I tried to look who this was, but he, David Leroy Anderson, played the floating head monster in the movie. What is the floating head monster? I don't know.
I think it's a reference to Doom.
I don't get that reference.
Old video game. Yeah.
Okay. But anyways, I thought that was kind of funny that that she worked on it and is like another horror icon, final girl legend, and that he was in it. So for the Merman, which is one of the best scenes, I think, debatably.
And it's also another practical scene.
The scene of him feeding on a victim and releasing the blood was done by hooking him up to a large container of fake blood, and the shot had to be limited to one take because the set would be obviously covered in the blood afterwards.
And they said they grabbed the biggest container they could find.
Yeah. And the director also joked that the blood shot out for 9 minutes, but only the last 10 seconds of the shot was used.
In the basement where they ultimately end up finding the diary to summon the redneck zombie family, there was actually one item created for all of the monsters. So all 60 monsters.
You know what I just thought of, too? Huh? This is pretty much like a Face-Off episode.
What do you mean?
Here's this
object.
Create the monster that's summoned by it.
Yeah.
We're watching too much Face-Off.
We've been watching a lot of Face-Off.
Maya Masser is the actress that played, she's credited as Mother Buckner, the mom of the redneck family, said that it took 8 hours to apply her makeup the first time, but then it took between 4 and 6 each day after that.
It? Just 4 to 6 hours?
Which is crazy because, like, the Buckner family is not even in it very much.
I would say they have, like, more screen time than a lot of the monsters, though.
Yeah, but it's crazy just to think that you'd have to sit for 8 hours for the one scene that you're in.
She's in it a couple times. They're all in it a couple times.
Yeah, but you get what I'm saying.
Uh-huh. If you've seen this movie, you know that the ending is chaos. Mm-hmm. And apparently making it was even harder. Drew Goddard, the director, had this to say about shooting it. The control room was a nightmare. We had 80 screens that needed to be synced. In a big budget film, you just blue screen all those screens, but we had to have a guy at a computer syncing all of them. I had particular ideas about what I wanted on those screens and the beats in what were happening as we were doing dialogue. So screens are playing, actors are performing dialogue, and we're moving the camera. When it came together, it was the best moment of the shoot. Which is cool. That scene looks great, but syncing that much shit, doing the reset on each take would... Oh my goodness.
That's also one of the more Buffy moments of the movie. Because in that scene, too, that's when Dana pushes the red button to open everything and goes, let's get this party started. I think I literally said when we watched this, okay, Buffy.
I think you did.
On one of those screens, though, too, there's a part where you can see someone's, like, holding up signs. Like a sign, and then he gets eaten. And I guess the sign actually said, help me, I'm in the utility closet, a dragon bat has my scent, I'm Ronald the intern.
Because I think that's one of the characters.
He's the guy that, like, joins the pool, like the betting pool at the very end. But they tried, but they could not make it, like, readable, legible, because of how small the screen was.
I read that no matter what they do, it couldn't work.
But I think it's kind of hilarious to know after the fact what it says as opposed to reading it at the time.
A fun little, I guess even nerdier tidbit, is that in 4 of the cubes are Left 4 Dead zombies, an old video game that I used to play a lot of. And there's actually a tank, a witch, a boomer, and a hunter that Valve let them use for the movie, and they were actually going to do a DLC level in the video game where you were playing in the cabin in the woods, and then you were going to go underground into the office, and you were going to fight your way through zombies and stuff, and some of the monsters that were in this movie were going to be in the game. But it got scrapped because of the company's bankruptcy. Bummer. I know. When I read that, I was like, that would have been the best level.
This movie, like, as a video game, would be so fun.
I know.
So fun.
It's such a bummer.
They
it never
should still
happened.
Do it.
I know. I wish they could. Go back and do it. I'd play it.
The Cabin in the Woods ended up making about $66.5 million worldwide, and the budget was $30 million. Apparently,
immediately after one of the very first screenings of the movie, the first question was to Drew Goddard, the director, was, will there be a sequel? And he immediately responded, did you just watch the ending of my movie?
Right, the world's over, dude. The death count for this one is listed as 69, LOL. Nice. But technically, the world population in 2009 was 6,800,000,000.
6.8 billion.
I can't do math, read numbers. 6.8 billion.
6.8 billion.
So that's technically the death count.
Because it's assumed everybody dies. Mm-hmm. Hooray!
Yeah, they better not make a sequel for this
ever. No, they're not.
Yeah.
Definitely not. For our next episode, we're going to do another classic. It's black and white, right?
It's not. It's actually in color.
It's actually in color. Mm-hmm. I guess I forgot. For some reason, I thought it was black and white. Well, it's not black and white, but still a classic. We're going to be talking about the 1963 Alfred Hitchcock film, The Birds.
Yeah, this movie scared the shit out of me when I was a kid.
I actually didn't see this until, 5 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
I saw it when I was 6, and it was very, very scary.
That's a bit. And Chelsea, your sister, still has.
I told her we were doing this. She said I'm not watching it, and she's afraid of birds because of this movie.
I saw it when you were a little too
Yeah.
young. Because it's not. I mean, there's just something about birds attacking you that is like inherently always a little scary.
Because they're everywhere.
They're everywhere, and if they're flying, what are you gonna do? Punch them? You can't even get them. It's up to them.
Yeah.
Just swooping down. Because yeah, like if a murder of crows is coming, if 50 crows are coming at you,
There's nothing you can
what are
do.
you gonna do?
Yeah.
Something about it, even for the 60s, just makes it feel real. Like this could have happened to you.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I guess that's the other thing is it's not zombies, it's not a werewolf, it's real birds. I guess that's also why stuff like Cujo is like scary.
Like timeless scary too.
Jaws. Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one. And actually, so far I've looked nothing up, so I'd say
I looked some stuff up. I know some things.
I know no things.
Mainly just how many actual birds they used is kind of insane.
Well, we'll get into that
Yeah.
and more bird facts. You'll have a Godzilla fact, one, and then a lot of bird facts.
Yep.
Bird wranglers.
Yep.